So today we're going to learn how to use the SDT650. Alright, so there's a few different gas tanks we have that are attached to our instrument. One of them is the nitrogen tank. So if you're planning to run inert samples, we're going to use this one. A couple things, just please only ever use this main knob to turn it on. Usually it's always on, but just you can double check that. For these other knobs, try not to touch them, but just verify that like this one should usually be at 20 psi. So just make sure that that one's there. So the first thing we're going to do is open up the program. It's called Trios over here. And then we're going to select our instrument, which is the one on the left. Alright, so once it's opened up, it'll look something like this. So just kind of to go through, so on this left side, we've got our design view. So here we just have all of the different pens that will show you how to run one. We've got our running queue, so those are the ones, because we do have an auto sampler, so we can continuously be running, set up multiple samples to run. So the incomplete queue will show you if there was an error. So if for some reason the instrument felt it couldn't complete your run, it'll show up here. For experimental, so this is where we're going to sort of set up our run that we can then add to the queue and run. On this right side, here we have the control panel on the right. So this is just going to show all of the different sensors. And so it's good to have open just to make sure everything's running properly. Also over here, if we wanted to mix gases, so if you wanted to do a mixture of nitrogen and air at a certain ratio, you can do that here as well. But we're going to go here over to auto sampler. And then if we click on go to tare view, this is going to show us which pens are like in use or just finished using, and then which ones are tared. So now we'll show you how to tare and a pen and stuff like that. Alright, so here we have our sampler stage, and then the arm and everything. So this is sort of where we'll do our loading and unloading. Here we have what is holding like our disposable alumina pans. So this is what they look like. Just make sure that they never get any samples like on the outside or let them touch the bench in any way. So you'll just carefully pick up a pan, and then you can stick it in whichever spot that you want to run a sample. And then we'll show you how to tare a pan first, and then afterwards we'll show you how to then load the pan. So don't fill it up with anything just yet. Okay, so now that we have our pans in position, we're going to go ahead and show you how to set them up to tare. So you can queue up multiple at once, so like we'll do 5 and also 6. You can select as many as you like. And then if there's any that you don't want to run, so like 28 we want to remove, so we're just going to deselect 28. So we're only going to really do just 5 and 6. So just double check you have selected the alumina pan, and then we're using it as a sample. And just so you know, number 30 is always the reference pan, so it should always be empty, there's nothing there, that's just the reference. So now that we have these two ready to go, we'll go ahead and hit tare selected. Alright, so now that we've tared our sample, we're going to go ahead and load up our pan. So we'll go for number 6. So we'll grab this little pan, and you want to make sure it never touches the bench in case it's dirty. And we're just going to load up a generic sample. When loading, so typically we recommend 5 to 10 milligrams if you just have like a regular solid. But if you have like something that's really volatile, you're going to want to do a little more than, like a little over 10 milligrams. And if you have an explosive sample, definitely less than 1 milligram, ideally less than like half a milligram. Oh my god. Alright, so that's a little bit of sample. So we're going to go ahead and use that. Just always make sure again that if you get any sample on the edges or sides or bottom, just grab a new pan at that point. If there's any sticky residue underneath when it goes to heat at really high temperatures, then the pan can't, it might break the auto sampler arm, and it's very expensive. So we'll put it right back at 6 where we had it originally, and now we'll show you how to, on the computer, run that. So now that we have loaded our pan with some sample, we're going to go ahead and go to the pre-weigh view just to make sure we loaded the correct amount. So over here on this right side with auto sampler, we're going to go to pre-weigh view, and then we're going to select 6. This is just the previous measurement, but we're going to weigh it again. So click 6, and then we're going to click freeway selected. Alright, so now that we've paired our sample, we're going to check it. So if we click on 6, this is very, very underweight. So if I were to run the sample, ideally we get 5 to 10 milligrams. This would be good for an explosive sample, but yeah, we'd probably want to raise that a little more. So you can add a little more, weigh it again until you're at about what your selected amount is. We're going to move on though. So the next thing we'll do is we'll go to design view. If we go up to here, we can insert a run. So if we go to the bottom, we're just going to use run 31. This is just going to be a test, but you can go ahead and rename it with whatever you'd like. We're using pan number 6, so we'll edit that. The reference pan, it should always be number 30. For operator, just put your name and maybe last initial. Project, you can put your project in more details. And under notes, please just let us know if this is a disposable pan or not. As a lot of time, people don't always collect their pans, and we're not sure if it was like a nice, expensive pan that you brought in or a disposable one. So just let us know if it's disposable and if it's okay for us to remove it, or you want to collect it the next day or something. For what test you're doing, so there's a lot of different options. So you can do like a ramp or something else. A lot of people like to do custom though. So if you custom, you can do a ramp. If you go to edit, you can add in a bunch of segments. So sometimes people they'll do equilibrate. So if you double click on that, it'll populate here. You can move that to, let's say, the start. So first it does that. Another thing is some people don't necessarily want to see the equilibration data. So if you double click on data and we push that up to the top, we can say like have data off so it's not collecting anything. And then we'll have another one, or we'll turn it on. And then it'll start right after the equilibration. So that's one thing you can do. But there's a lot of different things, so you go ahead and apply them. And then that's usually about it. So once you have that all set and ready to go, we can go ahead and add it to the queue. So if you right click and then go to copy to the running queue, then it'll go ahead and add it to the queue. And then if you were to hit start, then it would go ahead and queue that up to run. Alright, so once that's all set up, to go to results once your thing is done running, if you go to the results tab, typically your data will auto-populate. If you want to dig for an older file though, you can click on this button. But once you have some data that you like, some analysis you can do, so you can grab a certain peak or so, and then you can right click and analyze. There's a lot of different things you can do. So one thing you can do is peak integration. We'll hit accept and it'll give us some of that data. So you can go ahead and do that. Also just under analysis, there's all of these things as well. So we can do that. Other things you can do, you can double click on the axes and then you can go ahead and set something else as the x-axis, and then same for the y-axis. And once you're happy with your graph, you can go ahead and right click on this. We can go ahead and export our data. So you can export either to Excel or to like a TXT file. And also you can save your program under Trio so you can come back to it. Other ways to do that are just file, save as, or you can do export from here as well. And then now we'll kind of show you, if you want to do mass spec, we'll show you kind of how to integrate that in. Alright, so if you want to run a mass spec run, so something you need to do, so if you're in design view for one of your runs, before you add it to the queue, there's a couple things you need to do. So one, in this instrument, if you go under edit of segment, so make sure you're on custom run, and then we'll go here to segments. So there's one called event 1. So event 1, that's essentially going to help turn on the instrument that runs mass spec and trigger that. So something you need to do is make sure that initially your data is off. Then you can equilibrate to your desired temperature. And we're going to then turn data on and event 1 on at the same time. And this will make sure that they're in sync while you ramp up your temperature. And just be sure after your run, you then turn event 1 off so that it's not continuously taking spec data unnecessarily. So yeah, just make sure these two are aligned and we have this on. And then we can go ahead and apply. One more thing we have to do as well is now we can open up the Process Eye Professional program. One thing you have to do is just double check that the pump is working. So if it's green, you're good to go. We're then going to make sort of like an SOP, so we'll create a recipe. So if you want to make your own recipe, you can name the recipe, and then you have an option to do either the peak jump or bar chart. Peak jump will kind of focus in on like a specific area or like a specific peak. Bar chart will kind of give you more broad just data across the whole segment, so depending on what you want. We're going to go ahead and just select an existing one, and we'll hit OK. So the first mass and last mass, so you can go ahead and select that. Detector, and then if you want multipliers, this may increase your noise, but it'll also potentially increase your signal, so you can add on those multipliers if you like. Accuracy is kind of just this arbitrary range, but typically if you do like between 5 to 7, that'll give you some good data, but you can kind of toggle that later on. It'll just add more time to each cycle, the higher the accuracy. And then for the high electron energy, if your thing is known for overcharging or not, you can either select or deselect this option. And then we'll go ahead and select OK. So we'll do that. And once we have our recipe selected, then we can go ahead and click Start Automatic Sequence. So we'll go ahead and select recipe name. So that was this one. You can go ahead and save it as just like test for video, and then just a couple other things. If you want to add like another one, so you can add more and then delete them as well, depending on how many you'd like to do. And then once you have that all ready, you can click this button to begin the automatic sequence. So now, once it says it's initialized and started, now it's in waiting, so now it's ready to go and it's ready for your signal to start. So if we go back to trios, so now this event 1 on, that's going to then trigger that mass spec program to run. So now you're all set to add this to the queue, so we can go ahead and add it to the queue. And then when we go ahead and hit start, it'll run this, and once it gets to the event on point, it'll run the mass spec, turn it off, and then you'll have both data together.